Hi, my name is Omari W. Dixon, and you're here for a segment of the phrase keyword training session. Now, I have with me two very bright individuals. I have Janan. Hi, Janan.
Hi.
Here, let's put you on the big screen, Janan. Let's see. There she is. So, Janan, tell us about yourself. How old are you? What grade are you in? What part of the world are you?
hmm well, my name is Janan Mohammed. I am 18 years old. I attend Bowie State University and I'm a sophomore, uh, pre-med bio major, and I am in the United States.
Oh, wow. Okay. What part of the country are you from, though?
I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland in the house. And you're
hmm
a college student?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, what are you studying?
hmm Oh, pre-med and biology.
Pre-med and biology. Okay, okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining this training session. And
Of
we
course.
have next, we have Messiah. How you doing, Messiah? Thanks for joining.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. As you can see with the kind of burgundy shirt, I just actually came back from school. My name is Messiah Yusef Green. I am a sophomore right now in high school, and I'm 15 years old, about to turn 16. And
Awesome. What part of the country are you in?
I'm in Washington, D.C. right now. D.C.
Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. So that's really
Oh,
where my
cool.
upbringing was from, for real, being from there. Potholes and everything.
Nice, nice. Well, thank you for joining the call. You're
Of
going to learn
course.
a lot today about phrase keywords. So I'm going to train you in that. And I'm also going to give you a little bit about my journey in my IT career, going from my college all the way to my 20-year career in IT. So we'll get into that real quickly, and then I'll introduce you to the phrase keyword tool, and you'll actually learn how to create a software test. You guys ready for this? I'm pretty excited.
I'm
Woo!
excited too.
I'm
All
ready.
right, all
I'm
Yes.
right.
ready
Let's
to
get
rock.
started.
Ready to rock.
Hi, everyone. My name is Omari W. Dixon, and I'm pleased today to present to you my journey through software testing. So let's jump into it. I went to A. Philip Randolph High School in the fall of 1987. That's in Manhattan, New York. And it was in the fall year, about 1989, when I was about 14 years old. I was working really hard to get the early edition of the Reebok pumps. And it was about fall 1989 in my junior year that I attended a campus tech talk, changed my life for the better. And I tell you, the tech talks are very impressionable. It made me really think to myself, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? So, like any teenager at that age, I had a few options, right? One option I call the Tuskegee Airmen on the right, and the other option was like New Jack City. Same characters, but totally different paths. And as you could imagine, I chose the path to graduate from high school and then attend college. I hope you guys plan on doing the same thing. It's a long-term investment in yourself. Now, with that said, I chose to go to college, and I went to a college named Rensselaer, better known as Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, or for short, RPI. Now, in the RPI program, I entered in 1991. I know that seems like a long time ago, but for me, it was not that long ago. Fall of 1991, my life changed for the better. It was a different world by joining the Rensselaer Valley School of Management. Well, I started out as an electrical engineer, but I found my way into the business school because that's just really where my personality fit. Now, if you don't know anything about RPI, this is recent as of 2018, ranked sixth in the nation. So this is an Ivy League school, eighth in the nation for engineering. So about fall 1993, I'm 18 years old. I got married. I switched my major, and I also left RPI temporarily to go to Baruch College. And I was hitting the books. Let me tell you, the books were heavy because I had two children at that time, so I couldn't afford to mess around. And so I also had to work a job. I had to do a lot of things, but I made it through 1997, 22 years old, full-time job supporting a wife and two children, but I got that 4.0 with 21 credits. Woohoo! Graduated from RPI, December 1997. So what do you think I do next? Goodness gracious. I had to get a job working for Anderson Consulting, which today we know as Accenture, but I was able to secure my first job after college. Now, what you'll find is that you have a lot of challenges in your first job. My challenge was solving the Y2K bug. Not going to go into deep into what that was, but let's just say I fixed it. And right after I fixed it, I had an almost tragic Jeep accident. This isn't my Jeep, but I heard it look worse than that. I was taken to the ambulance. But while in the hospital, guess what? Nothing happened on Y2K because me and my boys, my tech guys, we fixed it for you. So the world was able to go on. Right after that, though, I didn't want to be a developer anymore, so I decided to be a tester. And that's what I did with the rest of my career. I was a software tester. And as you would imagine, things happened. My mother passed right after I made the decision. She died from cancer. So I had a lot of ups and downs, as you can see already. But I was able to recover and start climbing the software testing career. That ladder, I've been in all of these positions, and I'll tell you, the one that you're about to hear about in this training is the one that I've been in the longest. It's a software testing automation engineer. So let's jump right into it. I don't know if you guys have any questions, but let me just open the floor. Do you have any questions about anything that I said? Perfect. As we say in the IT world, I'll take your silence as a no. And with that said, let's move right ahead. All right, so let's get started with Secure the Bag Part 2. This is going to be the segment where I just talk about software testing a little bit, the actual career path. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been in software testing for a little over 20 years, believe it or not. I've been in the IT space for about 23 years. So what is quality assurance? Well, quality assurance is the technical name for what I do, software testing. The reason is we're focused on actual quality. That's the reason why we're actually testing. And so when we talk about quality assurance, we're the experts that are in the field assuring to the stakeholders, the people who own the website or who own the product, that the people who are actually using their product are going to have a quality experience when they use it. Now, let's just talk about the pay scale for a second. When you start out, you'll start out at about 50K just doing this job. And you'll see how easy this job can be if you learn how to do it. You can rise up relatively quickly, and in 10 years, you could be all the way up to 68. 20 years like me, you could be well above 70 into the 75 range. And this is from payscale.com, so this is recent information. So as a software specialist in the quality assurance field, you're basically going to be creating test cases. We call it test case design. And this is about interacting with the web page and observing its behavior and then repeating those behaviors to validate that something is happening. So you're going to be performing actions with different data points. Like, for example, if you were working at Airbnb's website, and we're going to touch on that, you would actually be acting like a real user, booking a listing, booking a stay somewhere, repeating it over and over and over again. So when we talk about their listing, if you see here on the screen, it shows the screen for Airbnb. And as you can see right away, there's a location, a check-in and check-out date, how many people are coming, are you bringing any children, are pets allowed? And then you would click the search button. So this would be typical behavior that a software tester like myself will go in and test just to make sure that if somebody puts Maryland or Baltimore, it actually shows you the information for Baltimore and not California. Now, there are a few different types of tests we run. There's something called happy path. And as you could imagine, that's the expected path when we put valid data in. But sometimes we also check for errors to make sure if we put invalid data in that we get the correct error that's supposed to be shown to the user. So this is just basically a high-level overview of what software testing is, just at the lowest level when you're writing test cases and executing them. And there's different types of test case writing styles. And what you're going to see today is that the third one, phrase keywords, is actually an upgrade from the former two, which is freestyling and just using regular keywords. Now, I know you don't know what freestyling is, but just imagine you're just writing a test case any way you want to write it. You're going to use your personality. There might be some grammatical errors. Well, phrase keywords, as you're going to see, are going to make it much easier. It's going to take a lot of those errors out of it. So as a test case writing style, it just makes your life so much easier. Now, a special area that I'm in is called QA test automation, or it can be called software test automation. Now, as you can imagine, the automation part is very important in this phrase, because what it's actually describing is, remember before I just said when we design a test, we might go to Airbnb and we might enter in data. Well, normally a human being is doing that. You need a lot of human beings to finish that job. Well, what has happened in this industry is we've learned that we can take the human being and place him over here in the left corner, and then we can have actual robots performing most of the tasks of the human being. So the human being got a pay raise, right? But the human being's job is to manage these robots, and we call that automation. But what you're going to see is that it's just as easy to do automation these days as it is to do manual, because it's the same exact phrase keywords that we're going to use when we use a writing style. Now, automation engineers do make significantly more than manual testers. As you can see here, after 1 year or less, you're already starting out at 63K. And after 10 to 20 years, you're in the 90s. If you're a contractor, you can even go higher than that. And this, again, is from PayScale. So this is recent information. So if you're interested in making 95K, you might be able to make that in just a few years or even less than that if you, as they say, have the knowledge and you have the ability to test all of these different devices with that knowledge. So automation devices that we test desktops, we test smartphones, we even go into VR. Automation isn't quite in VR yet, but that's the future, as well as tablets. And so we have all of these robots that perform these test cases that we write. We're not going to actually do any automation today, but what we're going to focus on is just writing that test case that could potentially drive manual as well as automation. One of the highlights I wanted to say here is that what made me successful in this field is I was a very detail-oriented, fast-learning type of an individual and great at solving problems. You also have to be an open-minded team player and have really good soft skills. And you have to stay on your programming skills. And finally, you definitely want to learn how to use phrase keywords and add that to your resume. So these are the automation highlights. Now what I want to do is get you guys into the actual phrase keyword tool so that we can design our very first software test. Are you excited? I know I am.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. Come on. I'm ready.
All right. All right. So what we're going to do now, Messiah, is I'm going to show you the PKD Test Designer tool. Now, this tool is created by myself, Phrase Keywords, founder and creator, to make creating test cases that much more easier. Now, I mentioned earlier before that typically manual testers would do something called freestyling. Now, in freestyling, they'll just write out a test case and they will use their own approach. They'll even make grammatical errors. Phrase Keywords eliminates all of that, and I'm going to show you how. Let's just first open up a website. We're going to go to Airbnb, one of my favorite sites to go to. Now, when you go to Airbnb, I don't know if you're familiar with this site, but this is where you would go to book a stay anywhere in the world. It's a good contrast from staying at a hotel, right? You get to stay at someone's private home or someone's special like tree house. All types of options are there. But when you go to their main page, this is one of them. This is the starting point. After you load the website URL, which is airbnb.com, then you go and enter the location, the check-in and check-out dates, how many adults, how many children, and then they give you other amenities. So, for example, if you want a house with a pool and it has to have Wi-Fi, you can select that and click search, and then it will give you that information. Well, if we were freestyling, I would just write step 1, step 2, step 3, and these would be the actual steps and actions that I would have to take in order to test this page. So, for example, the first step would be to open the page itself. The second step would be to enter a location. So I'm going to enter in Baltimore. And you notice it gives me options. Choose Baltimore, Maryland. So if I just choose Baltimore by itself and click search, let's see what happens. It opens all the stays. It shows 300 stays in Baltimore, and then I can filter it down. But let's just go back to that page again because I want to enter in more data. I want to say, for example, I want to stay from let's say Valentine's Day weekend. I believe that's going to be Friday the 11th to, let's say, the 15th. I want to check out. And it's just going to be me and my wife. And we want a pool, we want a hot tub, and we want Wi-Fi. And I click search. Well, now, guess what? It narrows down to 61 stays. You see up here, 61. This makes it a lot easier for me to find what I want, because now I can just scroll through, I can see, and I can be assured that all of these have the amenities that I asked for: the hot tub, the pool, and the Wi-Fi. So what we're going to do inside of the PKD Test Designer is we're going to actually use phrase keywords to create our tests. The same way we did it in our minds manually, freestyling, we're going to do it in phrase keywords. So what I want you to think about is, what are the step-by-step things we need to do to first open this page and then to populate these fields? Well, Messiah, if we look at the PKD Test Designer tool that I have open, I'm going to show you how simple that is. On the left here, we have the left pane. We have the phrase keyword driven test design output. This is just an output that shows each step that you're going to populate. And the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the right pane here, and I'm going to actually scroll down. These are all my topics and all of the phrase keywords under them. And I find one here that says launch app. And under it, it says open website. So I'm going to click open website. And it's going to ask me a question. It's going to say, what website do I want to open? So it's showing me the phrase. This is the phrase I selected. And it's asking me to populate this value here. Now, this value is very important, Messiah, because it's in between these brackets. If you notice, there's an open bracket here and there's a closed bracket at the end. Anything inside these brackets is be considered data. So by default, it's just showing me the phrase says LP_URL. I'm going to replace that with the actual data I want to use. If you notice, I type the URL for Airbnb and I click OK. And now that I've clicked OK, I'm expecting it to place that phrase as step one. Now, because we're using Google Sheets, sometimes if you wait too long to populate, it may not populate it. So we're just going to do it one more time. We're going to move a little bit faster. And it should populate this time, hopefully. Just give it about 6 or 7 seconds, and we should see a result. No result. Let's try it one more time. Oh, wait, there it goes. It was just taking its time to get it to us. So as you can see here, Messiah, it actually placed multiple lines here. I'm going to delete one. So I'm going to go select the line, go to extensions, macros, and choose remove. It's going to ask me to confirm it. Yes. So it's going to remove that line. So as you can see here, I have the first line, which is opening the web page. So Messiah, just based on what I explained so far, can you guess what will be the next step in order to duplicate this test that we just ran? We opened the website already. What would be the next step?
So we've opened the website. So I would say, taking a guess, maybe we start populating the kind of information that we use, like the location, the check-in time, the checkout time, the adults.
Exactly.
Those little arguments. Yeah.
Let's start with the location. So the location is inside of an object on the page. And there are different types of objects. The first object that we're going to interact with here is called an edit box. Why? Because you can type directly into it, and anything you type will start to appear in a list below. So if I start to type Miami, as you can see here, it gives me Miami Beach, Miami, even Miami Gardens. So it's an edit box. So I'm going to type Baltimore and click OK. So because this is an edit box, I'm going to go to interaction with objects and look for a phrase that populates an edit box. Oh, there goes one. I'm going to select that phrase, and then it's going to ask me for the object name. So I'm going to call this location. As we can see here, it has a location name. So we're going to call that location. And then I'm going to click OK. I'm not going to put in a value. When I leave it blank, watch what happens. It's pretty cool. Let's wait about 6 seconds. Oh, there it goes. So there you have it. It has using the location edit box into the value LP underscore location. This value called LP underscore location is known as a local parameter. And we're not going to populate it right just yet. I'm going to show you how we're going to populate that with Baltimore shortly. But first, what we want to do is complete the flow. So what comes after location, Messiah? Let's look. The check-in object, right? Check-in. So what we're going to do is we're going to, again, choose populate edit box again, because that's an edit box. And this time we're going to call it check-in. And we're going to say, okay. It's going to add step 3 and say using the check-in edit box into the value LP underscore check-in. Are you with me so far?
Yep, I'm watching. I'm definitely learning.
Great. So as you can see here, there's a pattern. We see what's on the screen. We've populated the location. We've populated the check-in. And we also want to do check out. So again, that's an edit box. I have to always ask myself, what type of object is it? It's an edit box. So I'm going to choose edit box and I'm going to choose check out. Now, if you notice here, there's no spaces here. I could have put a space, but I choose not to. There's no spaces. We call this in the IT world camel case. And it's because every letter that begins a new word in the actual group of words that I'm using, check out, will start with a capitalized letter. So it's like the humps of a camel, and it allows you to read it clearly, even though there's no space there. Does that make sense?
Yep, I've come from a little IT. I've seen camel case before.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, we use camel case here just to eliminate the problem of white space, and that can introduce human error sometimes. All right, so let's do that one more time because I was moving too slow. So we've covered check in, check out. Now let's do adults and children. So I'm going to populate list box. Why? Because this isn't an edit box. This is a list box. As you can see, when you click the arrow, it shows you options and you're limited to these options. So I'm going to say 3 people. But in here, I'm going to select populate list box. And this one is called adults. I'm going to say okay for the name, okay for the value. And the next one is called children. So I'm going to go back, populate list box again. I'm going to call this one children. Okay and okay. And I'm not going to click any of these buttons, but rather I'm going to deselect them and I'm going to click search. So that button at the bottom needs to be clicked. So I'm going to choose click button. And it is called search. So I'm just going to give it a name, search. And now I've completed the flow. It opens the website in step 1. It populates the fields, step 2 through 6, through 7. And so that completes the flow for this test. But there's one last thing you have to do in the test, Messiah, and that is perform some type of validation. I want to validate that after I click search, that I am indeed on the Baltimore page, and it says 300 stays in Baltimore. So I'm going to highlight this, and I want to insert a validation here. So I'm going to look for validation under the topic validation. So if I go here, I want to see a text label displayed. So I'm going to choose that one, and I'm going to paste the text that I saw on the screen and click OK. So this confirms that I'm on this page. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're putting in each individual step. So making it so that we have a real checklist of each individual just like argument as we go through it, being adults, it being actual checklists of numbers, of integers, even if we're talking an IT spec. Yeah. So
exactly. So at this level, you don't have to worry about the data type. Everything's processed as a string. because we're just putting the information inside of Airbnb's app. So because we're just putting it into the page, we can treat everything as a string. Now, of course, when Airbnb processes this information on their side, they're treating this as a date field. They're treating the adults as a number. But because we're just putting the information in to replicate human behavior, right, with the test case, everything goes in as a string. All right, I mentioned before that the actual values are not here. There's a phrase for that. Let's find it. It's called load TDH data, and typically it goes at the very beginning of the test itself. Load data just basically, load data, what this will do for us is this will access a test data source like a sheet or database, and using a unique identifier, it will load all the data into the test for us. So when it gets to populating the location or the check-in or even the adults, those LP variables, local parameter variables, will be substituted for the real value. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go to extensions. First, what I'm going to do is because what I want to do is insert a row here. So I'm going to go to step 1, and I'm going to go to extensions, macros, and choose insert. And then when it inserts, I'm going to select the load data. And it's asking me for the TDH name. I'm just going to leave that as is for now. And for the ID, I'm going to leave that I'm just going to give a number, 16700. Say that that's the unique identifier for my data. And it's going to insert that step and renumber these for me. So now my test is satisfied. My flow is done. So what I want to do now is I want to copy this and save it somewhere else. So I'm going to choose copy. It's going to select it for me, and then I can go to edit, copy, and I can paste it somewhere else, like a notepad or even another Google Sheet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely understand. So you're able just to copy that whole entire spread. Like it's literally like a template, the way you just able, just so user accessible with it. I love it.
I won't ask you to do your own tests.
Okay.
What I will show you is just, now that the test is complete, this typically would be the test that would go to Airbnb's testing team.
Yeah.
So this is literally how it would look from their perspective as well. I didn't smooth it over for you. This is literally how it would look in their environment.
Wow.
What they would have is they would have this as a test, and they would have hundreds of more to test very specific things. And so, like in a case of choosing this selection, when I go to the second page, notice it has more filters. And this way it gets really challenging, because imagine you wanted to test every single option. I might want to test, okay, let's see what happens when I choose 6 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, and click OK, search. And I could really go crazy with this. Let's see what happens when I choose a hotel room. And let's say save, but I want the price to be, $200 or less. I wanted to offer free cancellation. So every single option has to be tested thoroughly before they release it to the world. Because if you could imagine, Airbnb is all over the world. You can stay places, you can book a stay anywhere in the world pretty much. So imagine like different time zones, different holidays, different cultures. So these have to adapt to all of that. And the single entity that's in charge of, the single organization, I should say, that's in charge of this is the software testing organization. So with the skills that you just learned, you'd be able to secure the bag in your future by using the phrase keyword driven test design sheet. You'd be able to secure your future in this field. You may just want to use this to catapult whatever else you might be interested in. So you might want to be an astronaut, but while you're in college, while you're studying to be an astronaut, you could be a software tester at NASA. And then you can use this sheet to write your software test cases. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get the whole concept now. So I'm definitely glad you explained like the whole entire like reason why it works. So yeah, so I'm all caught up.
Awesome, awesome. And anybody else who joins will have their own. So notice here how yours says Messiah. They'll have their own sheet, and even clients will have this sheet. You're actually using a sheet that we're using in a professional space for Fortune 500 companies. So again, this isn't like some dumbed down version just for trainees. This is the actual sheet. The only thing that may change is the amount of phrases on the right side. So this is about, I'd say, 56 lines. So it has about, minus the topics, it has about, let's say, 40 something actual phrases. A company like Airbnb may have like 67 phrases. That'd be the only difference. But you and them, everybody would be using the same tool. Does that make sense?
I'm flabbergasted. I've never even known that. It's the first time I learned
that. So, do you believe that you'll be able to secure the bag? It's easy, right?
There's no doubt about it. There's no decision about it. You either get it or you don't. You know, you either
if somebody came up to you and said, Messiah, I need you to do 100 test cases for me using phrase keywords. I need you to test all of these filters and I'll pay you $2,000. Would you take that offer?
Of course. I've got to. At that point, you know, it's not about whether you know. If you know the program, if you already developed, look at the method. It works. It tells for itself at that point. That's just easy money. That's
and the best part about it, Messiah, is that there's something called black box testing, which basically means the less you know about the application, the better of a test case you'll write. Think about it. If you knew everything about Airbnb's website, you'd be able to write some tests, but you just know too much. But if the least you know about this site, the more authentic your experience would be, and therefore the more authentic your tests would be. So you literally just need the skill of setting up the test flow, what we call test designer. So if you can design a test, then you can secure the bag for not just Airbnb, but for literally thousands of companies out there. And I can be your conduit to make the introduction to say, hey, I've taught Messiah how to do this. How much are you going to pay us to get this done? And when you get that email, don't think that it's spam or someone scamming you. No, it's a real deal if it comes from phrase keywords and it says my name on it.
That's overwhelming, but I'm excited. I'm excited for the future of people who be doing this. Come on. People need to get on this.
All right. Well, thank you, Messiah. That pretty much covers this segment of the user training. I'm sorry that on a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give this training session that you just experienced?
Other than my thing, I give it a 5. The way you explained it, it was too malleable for me to give up. And also, I also want to say, one of my engineer teachers always says now was that engineers, we just fix it. If we see a problem, we just fix it. That's just all it is. It's not even a big behind deal. It's just a fixable problem. It's just a learning moment. But I'm excited, so I'm very glad for all that you've explained for this to me. So that's definitely great. Even though we've come to the end of our session.
Now, at the end, I want to let's give you a round of applause. Thank you so much. You're not clapping. You're supposed to.
Oh my God! Yeah, let me. Come on, pats on back.
And thank you for your participation. And you're gonna receive some follow-up messages via email from me, asking you to just give a survey as well as follow up to just like we talked about in the beginning of this call. We're going to have NFTs being created. So I'm going to need your wallet ID, and I'm going to send you, using the phrase keyword designer, I'm going to send you the instructions for setting up your wallet. Okay?
I'm excited.
So just give me some feedback about those instructions.
I'm already. That's already what it is. You know?
All right. I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for all the future trainees. Thank you so much, Messiah.
No problem.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, there it is. You got a chance to see phrase keywords in action. That's right. It was the first phrase keyword training session. I'm excited. I'm excited for my trainees, Janan and Messiah. I have nothing but an idea, a vision of them having a bright future leveraging this tool. to secure the bag. And by secure the bag, I truly mean there's a demand for this all over the world. As you can imagine, when you hear the term metaverse, when you hear all kinds of terms like the cloud, VR, AR, guess what? All of these technologies, like I mentioned before, have to be software tested. So think about all the companies that are moving into the new technologies, and imagine all of these testers, an army of testers doing software testing, and then another army of testers that are managing the robots, automation test engineers. It's a bright future. You can secure the bag in this space. It's going to always be in demand. And with phrase keywords, you're going to have the tools to make it even that much more easier for you by eliminating the freestyling. It's going to just be point and click. You can build your test flow using that designer, and you can secure the bag for your future. So with that said, I want to thank you for your participation, Messiah and Janan. I want to thank all the future trainees who are watching this video and all the future sponsors on Patreon that are sponsoring this great work. As you can see here, the trainees are very excited about this, and I'm making it my personal mission to go all over the country and soon all over the world to bring people into this training session so they can get some exposure to the software testing industry. You never know. This might be the introduction to IT that youth in the community have been waiting for. It's interactive, it's not too difficult, and it's challenging enough to keep you attentive, and is also a great milestone at the end where you actually complete a software test case. So with that said, I want to thank again the trainees, the sponsors, everybody in the future that's going to interact with me. I'm excited for all of our futures, and I want you to join me in this journey as we bring phrase keywords to the community, to the country, and to the world. With that said, I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.